But so we got through the first 5 pages, I think, right? Yes. Okay, so we have to do these last 2 pages, which are the most important ones, I believe. Grandfather's articles were trampled on. We have proof as clear as the pathogen causing Higurashi syndrome, so why can't they believe in its life cycle? Because they've never heard of that before? Because they can't imagine it? Because there's no way something so absurd could be true? Tell me that. I can't bring myself to care about the limits of those commoners' understanding. Why can't anyone believe the truth of my grandfather's article, which has been proven by the Irie Institute? Why do people continue to believe that humans are a special existence? Humans are simply a species of animal. When various parasites that control their animal hosts exist, how can people declare parasites that use humans as hosts don't exist? Wait, this isn't the problem. Not at all. Everyone believed my grandfather's article till now. Isn't that why the Ministry of Health and Defense Agency let me their assistance? But out of nowhere, they turned cold. In other words, every bit of their help was because Uncle Koizumi had my back. So nobody actually read my grandfather's article? Did they just pretend in order to make Uncle Koizumi happy? What is the meaning of everything I've done up until today? I thought I'd achieved something, but what have I really accomplished? I don't know what's going on, but all I can do is wallow in my grief. The more I think about it, the more I no longer understand the meaning of my own life. Didn't Mia Takano devote her life to being useful for her grandfather? If my grandfather and I go on to count 4, what a crazy thing to say. No, if I let my mind wander, doubt about myself and my life will slip in. So I'm just going to fill the gap in my heart with alcohol. Because that's the answer. Is it that strange to presume the existence of something that could influence human thoughts? It's true that Higurashi syndrome isn't the actual cause of ideology. The best it can do is drive people mad. Socialism or capitalism don't originate with it. In the era my grandfather was living, you couldn't talk about the world without ideology. The article came from that time and age, so some of its influences may be exaggerated or biased, but that's not the reason to deny its foresight. You can't simply say it's crazy and push it aside. Oh my goodness. Besides, the most important thing they ignored is the fact that Rika Furude, the queen carrier, holds the fate of the village in her hands. My grandfather had predicted the importance and danger of the queen carrier since beginning his research on Higurashi syndrome. The hypothesis of the infected community collapsing into madness if the queen carrier dies is a Pandoric box that can happen. It can only be confirmed after Rika's death, and if she dies, it'll be too late. But there's no mistake that Rika Furude is the queen carrier and a very special existence. It's clear from the various experiments we've performed that she has a special influence on the infected villagers. Her death really could trigger the collapse of the entire village. There's no mistake. My grandfather predicted it. To say all of that sounds like a comic book is just too cruel. For them to call the various preparations we've made to protect her a fictional project that was used to tunnel funds. What I'm doing now is something that my grandfather was going to do. Therefore, insulting my research is the same as insulting my grandfather. According to my grandfather's article, the first thing that needs to be done when researching the syndrome is to protect the queen carrier. Yet they ridiculed that more than anything else. The more I think about it, the more their words stick in my memory. I can almost hear their voices, and I can't stop myself from covering my ears. I'm sure the members of the board of directors think I'm crazy. I was trying to petition for the Irie Institute to not be shut down, but it backfired. The members must think that Higurashi syndrome is some kind of joke, and I'm sure they'll push even harder not to put a stop to our research. If that happens, I would have to go back to researching as an individual. In other words, the same as what my grandfather did. It limits what an individual can do. It's doubtful I would even be able to get back to researching it individually. Once the Irie Institute is disbanded, everyone is obligated to keep it confidential until we die. I signed a contract to that extent. It's not just a simple promise. If I were to break it, a special unit like the Mountain Dogs would come after me to ensure that I keep everything confidential. Even if that doesn't happen, the Irie Institute is to eradicate the syndrome within a few years and to bury every trace of it, including the results of our research. This isn't the normal process of research and treatment. They want to pretend nothing ever happened to begin with. I wanted to continue and complete my grandfather's work, but what's happening now will result in the complete opposite. I'm actually helping to eliminate my grandfather's hard-earned research from this world. Treatment has been created already. Although Irie is as passionate as I am about developing a cure, he's not particularly interested in any other aspect of the research. I hate to admit it, but he has more experience and talent than I do. I'm sure he'll come up with a plan for eradicating Hinamizawa syndrome within 3 years as requested by the new board of directors. And our board of directors will provide just enough funds to bury the syndrome. Irie will do that happen. It's like the time when he disposed of all the research data on test medicine H170 as was requested. All I can do is passively hinder them just like they did me, watching the Hinamizawa syndrome get eradicated. When everything is over, I will finally complete an article which is destined to be destroyed. Should I kill myself with thoughts of it in my head so I can at least present the article to my grandfather? He won't be happy even if I did that. On the contrary, he'll be disappointed in me for throwing the research he spent half of his life on down the drain. He won't embrace me, I know that for sure. I wanted to reveal Hinamizawa syndrome to the world. I wanted the world to acknowledge my grandfather's masterpiece. I wanted to carve his name in history and promote him to a god. My grandfather waited, believed that the day would come, and he must patiently be waiting still, even after entering his eternal sleep. But I ruined it. I wanted him to become a god. I was going to become a god myself, too. We will be together forever, and I'll never have to be alone. If I become a god, God won't test me. There won't be any unhappiness, there won't be a sudden train accident. My grandfather won't go away, nor will Uncle Koizumi. I am alone. I have no allies. I'm just dancing in ecstasy on a stage without anybody watching. I had only just realized there was no applause, but only ridicule. And it's doubtful that there was actually anyone in the audience at the beginning. My parents died, my grandfather died, and Uncle Koizumi died. 3 times had God toyed with me with their rolls of the dice. I thought I overcame each of those trials with my own strength, but I didn't. I was protected by a new guardian each time. This time I have no guardians left to protect me. I first arrived in Hinamizawa, I had every intention of challenging God and kicking off his throne. But now forget challenging God, I'm just a loser to be playing with. I suddenly can't find it within myself to care about anything. If I cared, I'd be swallowed by sadness. Soaking my heart in alcohol is all I can do to forget about everything. A Turkish black car abruptly stopped next to me. I became sober immediately, as cars like that reminded me of the time when I was captured after escaping from the orphanage. Suspicious-looking men in black suits and sunglasses got out of the car. I realized it instantly. It must have been sent by one of my clients. Being involved in the development of a biological weapon, being the main person responsible for it, and on top of that being mentally unstable. They obviously don't want me walking around freely. They're going to abduct me, seal me in concrete, and erase my existence. Or so I thought. I expected them to grab me and shove me into the car. Surprisingly, they bowed deeply to me instead. Be killed anyway. I can't make my grandfather's wish come true even if I live. Cynical thoughts like that ran through my head. The person in the back seat said, I've never met this young woman before. She must be around my age. She knows about the Irian stew, so she must be somehow connected to my clients. She's too young to be one herself. But the client who doesn't want to expose himself sent her. Even if I live, I can't make my grandfather a god. I can't be a god myself either. Who cares about whether a loser like me gets killed anyway? I made up my mind and got into the back seat. As soon as I got in, the luxurious car smoothly took off. And silence filled the car for a time. They're the ones that invited me. I don't have anything to say myself. There were so many people at the funeral. I can't recall any of them. Why is that what she's opening with? Does that mean she belongs to the Koizumi faction?
長く活躍されてきました。そう、戦後の焼け野原から復興するときに我が国の勇士たちも一枚岩でしたね。残念ながら今もそうであるとは言えません。平和の時代が進み、焼け野原を知らぬ世代が国の中枢に入り始めるにつれ、当初の高貴な志を知る小泉先生は、そんな高貴な同志の最後の長老として21世紀へ我が国を導いてくださる大黒柱だったのです。小泉先生の死後、小泉派は急速に没落。代わって他の派閥が勢力を伸ばし、いろいろと大変なことになっている。
It's really no different from the Sengoku area when a Ronin military leader died back then. The struggle to become a successor brought chaos to the nation. This country hasn't changed for hundreds of years.
その通りです。残念ながら平和日本は住みよい国づくりを実践してき、現在東京は各派閥が小泉先生の開けた席と利権をめぐって争いが絶えない状態です。それと私に何の関係が？あなたはそれの最大の被害者ではありません。今日までに。
It's true that our research began because of Koizumi Sensei's support. The pressures we faced under the anti-Koizumi faction have been tempestuous and cold. Maybe for them every project that Koizumi left behind is an eyesore, regardless of what the project is. In other words, that simply means they rejected the research itself, doesn't it? Come to think of it, something like this happened to my grandfather, too. Back then, Koizumi brought authorities from various fields to see him. They talked down to my grandfather despite the praise they'd given earlier. Koizumi told me that the masterminds were responsible for that.
南沢症候群の研究はアルファベットプロジェクトで最大のもので、予算、体制その他プロジェクトの目玉だったと言っても過言ではありません。故にアルファベットの権益を独占したい連中によってあなたの研究はそのスケープゴートにされたのです。スケープゴート？決して南沢症候群の研究が否定されたという意味ではないというか、彼らにとって重要なのはそのプロジェクトの派閥である内容ではありません。結局私は見せしめの羊ということなのね。私が何の研究？そういうことです。派閥は風向きそのもの。順風な時もあれば逆風となる時もある。私のクライアントたちが敵対的になったので元に戻すのは容易ではないということ。そうです。アルファベットプロジェクトは完全に乗っ取られてしまいました。理事は全て変わり、彼らの私欲を肥やすためだけに決定をします。あなたの捨て身の説明など初めから彼らには耳を貸す気もないのです。
I grasped my knees, remembering that humiliating day.
ここで一度話を売ります。それはあなたに祖父と呼び敬愛していた高野先生との約束ではないですか。
Well, that's surprising. Koizumi once told me that this fact could become a hindrance, so I've never told any of my clients about it. How did she find out? If they know that, maybe they know a lot more about us than I think.
どこでそれを知ったんですか？小泉先生からです。私たちはあなたの敵ではありません。どうかオラクル。
I don't know who she really is, but I know she's here because she wants something from me. What is it that she wants? She knows about the relationship between my grandfather and me, so I can't be careless.
ただ、私たちがあなたの力になるのは、あなたにおっしゃる意味がわかります。高野さんが南沢症候群を研究する本当の目的は何ですか
？Of my grandfather's masterpiece acknowledged for what it is and to have him become a god.
高野先生の研究を世間に認めさせること。あなたの祖父が心を込めて書き上げた論文を踏みつけてないがしろにしたことへの復讐。
I'm reaching the limit of not letting the surprise show on my face. How much does this woman know about me? In the first place, who is she? How does she know everything I'm thinking? I can't admit that out loud in any case. I have appearances to consider. But while this elegant woman was wearing an angelic smile, she laughed with a devil-expectant whisper, several times better at it than I am. A simple smile and a devilish grin are completely different. An ordinary smile means goodwill, but a malicious smirk means the complete opposite. Thank you for the follow. This woman can read my deepest thoughts. And while doing so, she's testing me. Hold on. See how honest I can be with her. Whether I tell the truth or not isn't the issue here. Was testing me to see if I can trust her enough to confess everything.
もしも私の言っていることが全くの勘違いでしたらどうかお許しください。
It's going. We're
もし
we're picking up more of the
私
pieces
の言ってい
here.
ることがあなたの本当
I can't say anything or reply, but I think that simply remaining silent might also be an answer. I want to hear what she wants from me. I've always phrased my objective as some of the vague idea of turning my grandfather into a god, but she's just taught me what my true objective is. I want to get revenge for my grandfather's suffering. I want those people to fight over the right to read the article they once trampled on and mocked. I want them to believe, no, to worship every single word my grandfather left behind. That is my true objective. This woman has stated out loud that which I have only whispered within myself. She even asked me if she was correct. Is this woman an angel or a devil? If I'm a human, is she an existence above me?
あなたの不幸は
Yes and no. It's an I wouldn't consider it a side story. It's very important to what's going on, but it's one of the like pieces. When I go back to the menu, I'll explain it. It's easier to explain.
裏側に足跡が残るその論文をうらやしく読み、その先見性あふれる研究に敬意を示し、恐れをな
My first time envisioning something like
想像できま
this.
したかしら。
I mean, it's been my dream all
南
along.
沢症候群という言葉はあなたの祖父が作られた
But this part is about
その
Takano.
言葉が永遠に刻まれて残る。そう、それはあなたの祖父がその偉業が永遠の存在に昇華されるということ。それがあなたが
My
過去の
grandfather's
命
masterpiece will be remembered forever. Remembered
じゃないのかしら。
forever.
その偉業を全く理解
Jesus.
できない豚たちは
The fuck is this
あな
lady?
たのその夢をあなたの祖父の論文をぐっと見つけたようにあなたの悔しい
My favorite chapter, I think, is probably the last one. Probably because that was Rika's chapter, and Rika's my favorite. Her story is just so
そうじゃないですか
interesting and also extremely depressing, but an indescribable emotion is filling me, making me feel like I'm suffocating. The sensation of being cautious and calm, of trust and mistrust are all blending together. My heart is beating fast and my fingertips are shaking. Why am I at peace? It's because she reminded me of my true dream that I couldn't express with my own words until now. You liked Rena's? It's alright. Because she made me aware of the anger within myself. Why am I hesitant? Is it because she's reminded me of things I've never told anyone up until now? No, those are the things I've never even told myself.
ミオさんもし私の言ったことが間違っていないどころか大正解なんだ
Yeah, out of all of the characters, besides
どう
Rika, I think Rena's probably my favorite, so I can agree with that. A small noise leaked pathetically out of my mouth, like a child apologizing for a prank.
何かおっしゃったかしら
I know she heard me. The woman smiled, trying to make me say it again.
偶
How is this woman more
なら
crazy
よか
than
ったです。
Takano?
私の夢がそうなら。あ
I
なた
didn't
に
know that
何
was
ができるというん
possible.
ですか。あなたの2つの復讐をお手伝いします。一つはあなたの祖父のための復讐。あなたの祖父の論文を嘲笑った者たちに。もう一つはあなたと祖父の約束であり心のつながりでもある症候群の研究を派閥争いだけを理由に踏みにじり
Really? I love
権益の
Rika.
ためだけに終わらそうとする理事会への復讐。あなたの目の前で
She's
資料を
just a
踏み
cutie
にじり
patootie. What do you mean?
あなたの人生
What
さ
do
え
you
も踏みにじろうと
mean?
した豚どもへの復讐。祖父の論文を手に取らせそれを踏みにじったこちらも腹を割りますともちろんお手伝いをするのは私たちの利害が一致するからです。小泉先生が日本の未来のために立ち上げられたプロジェクトを先生亡き後に食い物にしようとする輩を放置することはできません。
She's always intrigued me because, like, from the very beginning, you knew that she knew more than she let on, but you didn't really know why until you got to her
豚どもが
chapter.
私欲を肥やすための豚小屋となり果てました。
In-depth, like, explanation of, like, everything she's had to go through is, like,
小泉
damn.
先生の理想を離れた時点で
Super, super
畳ま
crazy.
れるべきなのです。派閥争いの生贄必要。今度は狼にしようというつもりですか。あなたが今のまま生涯公開できぬ祖父の論文を胸に隠居されることを選ぶおつもりでしたら無理にとは申しません。
No, I won't let that happen. I don't mind falling to the ground myself, but at least my grandpa, my grandfather's article.
あなたとおじいちゃんの結晶である論文を永遠のものにはしたくないですか。それあなたの本当の夢を叶えるチャンスを私たちがお手伝いします。
And I decided I was a loser in life and drowned myself in tears and alcohol after being abandoned by everything. I met someone who could be an angel or a devil. Is this divine salvation or the devil's seduction? I'm pretty sure it's the devil's seduction. I fought with the board of directors regarding the continuation of my research, but that was completely off target. That wasn't my true goal. My objective isn't to continue researching Hinamizawa syndrome. It's to have the world acknowledge my grandfather's research as a masterpiece. Somehow the method for achieving that swapped places with my objective and caused me to misunderstand myself. The purpose of my life isn't to continue my grandfather's research. It's to get revenge and repay them for my grandfather's suffering. That's what this woman is saying. She's promising to make my grandfather's research eternal. She's also promising an opportunity to take revenge against those who laughed at it. When Uncle Koizumi died, I thought God was playing dice with my fate. But my unshakable conviction gathered together a power stronger than God's die. So maybe this meeting happened for a reason. Curse you, God, you're testing me again. I will overcome the death of Uncle Koizumi. I will make my grandfather an eternal existence by taking revenge against the God who tested me. I will for certain. I will take my revenge. Who the fuck is this lady, though? Is she a hallucination? Because obviously Takano is not in the 100% mind, but... So I've only ever actually watched the original anime. The one back in, like, 2000, I don't know, 7 or something like that. I never even watched the Kai, actually. I only watched the, like, what's it called? The question arcs. I never actually watched the answer arcs, which is what we're on now. I wanted to wait until I finished playing the actual visual novels before I went back and, like, watched the anime again. I'm actually thinking about going back and rewatching the whole original one and then, like, maybe watching the Go after that, but... Ichimi Bar changing schools... Yeah, so if you... Hang on. You're right. Let me go back. Let me go back! Wait, no. I don't think I'll lose anything, though. So if you saw what was on my screen, the different fragments, so that's kind of where we're at now, is we're basically, like, with Rika and Hanyu in this, like, space between worlds, and we're trying to pick up all the fragments to try to make a potential, future where everyone ends up happy, which technically is impossible because obviously a lot of people had to suffer to get to this point, but anyways, with this, do I have all the pieces lined up for 1983? Yes, this is actually my third stream of this, of just this part right here, of just the fragments. So yeah, it's taken me a minute. It sure is a hard and exhausting job just lining up the pieces of the month of June. Finally, I'm at the starting line, beginning from zero at last. Yet seeing all these colorful fragments together, I realized just how many sentiments were intertwined around June 1983. I used to think the thoughts of people with no relation to me were useless, but I was wrong. Rika Furude did her best to overcome the fate of June 1983. She did two things. One was to get in touch with the Irie Institute because she knew she would be protected there. Ironically, Takano from the Irie Institute was the one who wanted to kill her, but it was the best move for her at the time. And the other was to ensure that the Maebara family moved to Hinamizawa. It actually wasn't certain that the Maebara family would move here. They first decided to move here when the father felt something sentimental at the sight of us on the day he came to view the properties for sale. Therefore, it was necessary for us to play in that field. It was the trigger for the Maebara family's move. We so longed to find that out, though. After turning various conditions on and off repeatedly, I finally realized that meeting Keiichi at that field was the cause. Keiichi Maebara is a very important key for breaking Rule Z, one of the chains that was binding me. He is the fresh air that's powerful enough to break all the old and evil customs in the village. He created many opportunities, but he also provided me with the important clue by letting me know there's strong conviction and the will to believe it is what's important in standing up against fate. But I wasn't the only one who wanted him here. People in the Sonozaki family who wanted to wipe out the nastier traditions of the village also wished for him. Mion Sonozaki vowed to herself to protect Satoko and Satoshi because she was very much bothered by how irrational the treatment of the Hojo family was. And on the night Satoshi disappeared, she exploded at Oryu Sonozaki and voiced her true feelings. Oryu Sonozaki understood. Oryu herself had come to understand the wicked customs of the village and had been wanting to do something about it. But she didn't have the power to do so herself, so she entrusted it to the fresh air that was blowing in from the outside. That was why the lots went on sale so the Maebari family could move in. Even if I danced in that field and Oryu hadn't put the lots on sale, Keiichi couldn't have come. And Ren Ryugu, who provided many important opportunities for Keiichi Maebara, was saved by returning to Hinamizawa after the deep emotional trauma of her parents' divorce sent her into terminal condition. Keiichi Maebara's wish to restart his life was the same wish Ren Ryugu had a year prior. Maybe that's why Rena was able to understand Keiichi. It's like the miracle where one can recognize moments in a certain fragment from another fragment. If they can use the lessons learned from one fragment, then humans won't make those mistakes. The game pieces will make their best moves, and the chance of winning this game of 1983 will rapidly increase. In other words, whenever Ryuga makes extremely important moves on this game board without realizing it, the mighty Rule Z that surrounded the Hojo assembly was eventually smashed by their actions. Of course, Satoko overcoming herself was also a huge help. Their hands met only because they reached from both sides. Keiichi and Ren are the ones who taught me that. Mion is the one who made it possible for them to move here. She also helped them to become familiar with the village. That's not all. Irie is also an important piece with significant functions of his own. Feeling empathy for Satoko is the most influenced piece on the board we call Hinamizawa Syndrome. Its existence is capable of defeating Rule X. Keiichi and Rena's determination and subsequent awakening taught us that it was possible to fight against Rule X, but they didn't defeat it. Defeating Rule X requires the existence of Irie, who has the strong will to discover a cure for the syndrome. I didn't know Irie held this many thoughts within him. I always thought he was rather absent-minded. He is in fact an important and powerful piece. So if we gather all his power, can we win against Takano's will? Good question. I've seen Takano's thoughts too. Sadly, her will is strong and can't be easily broken. It's no wonder our fate in June 1983 have been so hard to shake no matter how hard we fought. The sentiments I've been turning towards are pale in comparison to how many she's brought into it. The weight of our game piece is so different because I've given up on fighting while she had been risking her life to fight on. I've spent time stalking and drinking wine to escape from reality. I must be a very light piece indeed. I can't win against Takano with what I have so far. I need more pieces to be able to win. Officer Oishi once showed the possibility of becoming a strong ally. He's under the misunderstanding that the Sonozaki family caused the death of his dear friend, so until that gets resolved, he won't be of any help. I don't know how I can resolve that misunderstanding, but I just have to believe in it and keep throwing the die. Just like Kiichi and Rena can constitute a chance to change fate, maybe Akasaka has the power to create a chance as well. The curse of 1983 is tied to the curse of Hinamizawa. A curse can't be broken by inner power alone. It takes power from outside as well. Both sides have to reach out, otherwise the hands won't meet, just like what happened with Satoko. But Akasaka has never come to our aid. Even if he did, it was always too late. Too late. Far too late. But if I keep throwing the die, will Akasaka's game piece eventually appear? The final rule of Rule Y involves the evil masterminds who are using Takano as their own game piece. To defeat them, I need a very strong opponent for her. The only one I can think of is none other than Akasaka from the police headquarters in Tokyo. There are more pieces who would lend me their power. I need to gather them all, otherwise I can't win against Takano. The preparation of the game board is complete, but I need more pieces. It's only the beginning. I actually really liked the Higurashi anime, but though a lot of it was nostalgia, I watched it when I was like, it was actually probably one of the first anime I watched, actually. I remember it just super fondly, but, I know it, like, obviously, after watching and playing the visual novel, obviously there's a lot that is missing from it, right? Because there's so much content in the visual novel that, like, if they tried to put it into an anime, it would end up being, like, probably, like, 5 seasons long. But this piece is the only one that's so distorted. That's because it's from long before June 1983. Therefore, the existence of the piece has no effect whatsoever in the game we're playing on the board. But is this really a useless piece? The identity of Rule Y has been completely exposed by now. With the backing of a mighty organization, is it powerful enough to swallow up the small solidarity of individuals? I almost give up on this game because of its irrational power. That's why I'm thinking maybe there's a piece hidden somewhere that's strong enough to fight against such a formidable enemy. Mamoru Akasaka works at the police headquarters in Tokyo and might have the power to stand up to such a vast conspiracy. Can his power withstand even Rule Y? Just like Kiichi Maebaro's defeated Rule Z, we will be able to defeat Rule... Oh my god, I can't talk. Will he be able to defeat Rule Y so easily? We need everyone's strength, so Akasaka's strength is needed as well. Oh, that's it? Okay. Well, that's the shortest one I've seen so far. Yeah, I've heard really good things about Steins Gate. I've never played or watched it, but I actually do own the visual novel, and I've been thinking about playing it for, like, a decently long time. But I definitely have, other games and series I want to finish before I get to that one, but at some point I probably will get to that one and play it. I've heard really great things about it. In order for Keiichi Maebaro to become a game piece that can lead everyone, there's something he has to learn about first. A piece that's very painful, pitiful, and sad. He has to learn about his friends, and he has to learn to not doubt them. He doesn't know the importance of trusting his friends. He doesn't know just yet. Slight mistrust grows into paranoia, and Keiichi Maebara is trapped within Rule X. At the end of Rule X, Keiichi leaves a sad note and dies. While it may be very bitter and very painful, it also puts him through the process of learning something very important. Hey Hanyu, you didn't have to apologize. In a few days he left Hinamizawa to attend his relative's funeral. Tragically, he experienced an outbreak. But I think this was necessary, as his first step towards learning something important. The very first step towards smoking out Rule X and eventually defeating it. When this piece was all I had, I didn't even think of that, though. Okay. This game piece is a very important meaning for us. Because it showed us for the first time that it was possible to poke a hole in the fate of June of 1983. To start from the conclusion, everything gets taken in by Rule Y at the end and all our effort is wasted. But we're challenging the great law that governs this game board, Rule X, head on. We're using everything we've learned so far from other fragments, which proves we can defeat it. We grow by learning. In a game with no hope of winning, we can discover a slight chance of victory. This piece taught us that. With this game piece, Rule X was almost completely defeated. Keiichi Maebara and our other friends won't be led astray by something as pathetic as the Hinamizawa syndrome and Danton tragedy any longer. It has also taught us that the rules aren't indestructible and are possible to overcome. In other words, it has given us, the ones who are on the outside of the game board, hope. It's an important fragment that serves as our turning point and the trigger for everything else. Okay. I guess I'm just going to do them in order. This game piece reminds us that no matter what happens on the game board, everything is due to the curse of the Sonozaki family pulling someone's due to the curse or the Sonozaki family pulling someone's strings. No, to put it in my words, this is the piece that makes everyone aware of the existence of Rule Z. It's hard to notice with just this piece. But this is a complicated fragment where Shion Sonozaki, while trapped in Rule X and mistaking it for Rule Y, is hurled about, comes to notice the existence of Rule Z. But this is also the piece that teaches us the rules of the game board. By the way, the piece called Shion Sonozaki is a piece coming from the outside, from the game's point of view. She dislikes Satoko at first, but through this and another piece she learns something important. Challenges Rule X and grows to be a powerful piece to fight Rule Z. The most ridiculous part of this fragment is that it's hidden so cunningly and doesn't seem that way with just a passing glance. Learn from your mistakes. Please become a powerful piece and lend me your strength to defeat my enemies. Alright. We're almost through page 6. Woohoo! I think there's only 2 on page 7. 2 or 3. This is the piece of Shion Sonozaki who goes mad after being taken in by Rule X. I mean, they all go mad at least once. No room for sympathy, this is such a painful piece that can only have pity. It distinctly identifies the keyhole of the padlock called Rule Z. Keiichi Maebara becomes the key himself to pry open this padlock. As Shion Sonozaki wished for, he becomes a wind that clears out the stagnant air filling the village. This piece also teaches us an important lesson. Shion Sonozaki learns through this piece and then becomes a strong ally for Satoko. In that way, maybe Satoko is a piece that represents the padlock for Rule Z. Unless she is saved, Rule Z can't be defeated. When she is saved, that means Rule Z is defeated. This piece indicates only that. That's the only thing Sonozaki learned by gambling her life. Now I think that it's very important. Every time I see Satoko and Shion argue about pumpkins, I think about that. Alright. This piece shows the existence of the unreasonable Rule Z surrounding Satoko and reveals the most powerful adversary rule on the game board, Rule Y. Can the rules X, Y, and Z be seen now? The enemy we need to fight. The things we need to learn. All are gathered and revealed here in this fragment. At this point, it's impossible to reach Rule Y. Fighting against Rule Z's effect on Satoko is the best that can be done. But in this piece, we make a mistake in our approach for fighting it. The outcome we gain through erroneous means is erroneous itself. Keiichi Maebara learned that through his own experiences. A tragedy doesn't possess the power to overcome tragedy. Violence doesn't possess the power to overcome violence. If they can grasp that, all the pieces on this game board will learn the true way of fight. But Takano is too powerful. The shocking end of this piece doesn't allow us to learn it that easily. Nope, 2 left. Higurashi. Game piece that uncovers the invisible Rule Y that has been pulling the strings from the beginning. Because the impression of that is so strong, it's easy to forget about something very important. We can't forget that this piece also shows the path towards destroying Rule Z. While Rika Furude lamented Rule Z as impossible to defeat, it was hardly a match for Keiichi Maebara and the others once they learned everything they needed to. They knew the correct way to fight and fought according to the rules of the game board. As a result, we win and the fact is more valuable than anything for us. Keiichi Maebara taught me a lesson. There is no need to subject ourselves to any fate. The will to believe we can defeat anything. The fate that I was always subjected to was created by Mio Takano's own conviction, so what he says is correct. To defeat her conviction, we need a stronger conviction of our own. Strong will can be pierced only by another strong will. We defeated rules X and Z and then challenged the final rule Y, but we need more pieces. Each piece fought at its best, but the strength of our enemy's pieces, led by Mio Takano, were just too powerful. She didn't even give us mercy. She squished us completely and made us restart the game all over again. Although we lost, we didn't give up the resolve in our hearts, as we finally found the true culprit and also found a clue for how to fight against her. We can't win with the pieces we have now. We don't have a powerful enough conviction or a strong enough will. But Hanyu and I will keep trying. We'll roll or die repeatedly, looking for the greatest result, collect pieces, try again. The strong will stronger than Takano. Didn't you think of giving up several times before you got to this point? Nah, not really. But you made it because you believed in me and followed me here. We're almost there, we can do it. Let's create the last piece. It will be the ultimate piece and we won't need anything else. Very last piece of all. Come on, let's collect the pieces. Let's collect miracles. Please give your hopes, desires, and dreams to me. Hi, good morning. It's the morning. Well, afternoon, but yeah. I just got up, so morning to me. How are we doing? How are we doing? 7 fragments are required. We did it, everybody! It's the last one! After collecting miracles from all 7 fragments, I finally got a hold of this one. I'm gonna go ahead and save here just because. Because we're at the last one now. Thank God. Finally got a hold of this one. This fragment holds our final fate. Before we take a peek, please wait for just a little bit. The fate that's inside will be decided the moment we take a peek. Have I told you about the story of the cat in the box? Kitty cat? Is the cat in the box alive or dead? If you open the box, you'll know, but you won't know until you open it. It could be alive and it could be dead. In other words, before you open the box, the living cat and the dead cat simultaneously coexist. The moment you open the box and find out the truth, the incorrect answer disappears. The inside of this fragment is the same principle. The future we desire and the future Takano desires simultaneously coexist. They are opposing and denying each other. Once we take a peek, one of those futures will disappear. If we have enough pieces, we can take a look inside this fragment. But we only had the same pieces lined up in the same way on the game board. The game under the same condition was Takano's complete victory. We've already tried that in the Higurashi fragment. We need more pieces. We need the help of a piece that's powerful enough to defeat Rule Y. Till I get a hold of that piece, it's too scary to take a peek inside this fragment. But how do I get such a piece? It's a piece I've never gotten a hold of before. To obtain it, I need to look just one more time. I need one more miracle to obtain that piece. One more time. One of them is Hanyu. And then she's also talked about Akasaka, potentially. We did it! Oh, there's one more? What is this? I never noticed this tiny little fragment. Sometimes the fragment gets cracked and it breaks. Just like how the fate we believed in cracks sometimes. Damaged fate is no longer the same fate it was. Then which fate does this piece belong to? I picked up the tiny fragment and tried to match it with the fragments I have in my hand. The last fragment I picked up was the Himatsubushi fragment. This fragment was distorted from the beginning. And look. See? This tiny piece fits perfectly. This tiny fragment, how will the world change? What kind of miracle will occur? The whole world warped. Since I put the broken piece back where it belonged, the distortion centered on the crack. But that doesn't mean I can't take a peek inside. It's already past 1985. It's a time long after Rika Furuta and her friends tragically ended in June 1983. Some mild interference and order crackled through their headsets.
全班へ室長からありがたいお言葉があるぞ傾注しろご苦労さん所轄署は15分触れることになってる秒で制圧しろ一人たりとも逃がすな
Not a few
ターゲ
seconds.
ットの一人は外交官だ警察だと悟られるな有無を言わせず身柄を確保しろただし間違っても危害を加えるな外交問題に発展するぞ外交官特権で地元暴力団と癒着している芸道殿だ
Ew. Normally this would be a simple case with the perpetrators being gangsters, but when the police found out that a foreign diplomat was involved, things got much more complicated all of a sudden. Diplomats have diplomatic immunities, so the police can't arrest them. They knew he was an important figure in the whole scheme, and there was no doubt that he was the middleman between the foreign criminal organization and the Japanese gangsters. They couldn't let him escape. It'd be easy to deport him, but that wouldn't solve anything. Police had asked the embassy for assistance, but they denied the request. That case was put as a standstill at that point. That's when they found out that the organization was going to be selling the Self-Defense Forces classified radar and missile technology. Public Safety Division then had to move on to the premises to protect this classified government information. Today was the day that operation was set to go.
正面は階段前に2人、地下入り口に2人、裏口に4人、全員体重の可能性大。普段より2人多いな。あの人にとっちゃ2秒余計にかかるだけさ。容赦ねえからな、あの人。聞こえるか、赤坂。
赤坂。
お前が切り込み隊長だ。用心してかかれ。よし、開始しろ。
赤坂了解。作戦を開始する。
Man suddenly appeared around the corner downtown. It was Akasaka. He displayed none of the naivete than he did when he first met Rika. When he got to the entrance of the underground club, a bouncer with a heavy foreign accent stopped him.
ここ、会員制。お兄さん、会証ある？
Akasaka pulled a card out after being asked. It was a card that was very difficult to forge, they could only get one. As the man on point, he was the one to receive it. The bouncer let Akasaka in after confirming he had a membership card.
赤坂さん、地上の護衛突破。地下階段を降りてます。頼むぞ、赤坂。
At the bottom of the staircase, there was an overly decorated door like the ones you'd see at a high-class club. The venomous glow of the cocktail lights lit it up, silently warning everyone it was the entrance to a den of
いらっ
evil.
しゃいませ。会員証を拝見いたします。
The guard at the entrance took the membership card and put it through the card reader on the wall. Beep! Error sound. Slight perspiration can be seen on Akasaka's forehead. Guard swiped the card a couple times more. Beep. Beep.
赤坂さん、手間取ってます。
まさかカードの認証が変えられたか。赤坂にトラブルが発生したら作戦変更するぞ。赤坂の安全を速攻で確保しろ。
The expression on the guard with him steadily grew dour. His right hand reached inside of his jacket, probably fingering his gun. Ding! Buzzer sound rang with a delightful tone. The card reader flashed a green light. Immediately after that, the lock on the door opened up.
お待たせしました。どうぞお通りください。
The guard pulled his hand out of his jacket and opened up the heavy door. Loud music and flashing colorful lights spilled out from inside. And within that, a well-dressed guard appeared to welcome Akasaka. At this moment, his first mission was accomplished. Having acted as the go signal for the remaining units, Akasaka was also in the dangerous position of being in enemy territory all by himself. The door is the biggest obstacle for their ambush. The door locked automatically, so whenever it was closed, it was also sealed that way. It was a solid door, nearly impossible to open from the outside. Somebody had to not only open the door, but keep it open for several seconds in order for the raid to begin. Akasaka was the only one who could do that.
赤坂、入り口確保。
作戦開始。
The complex on the other side of the club was getting a new tenant, and there were 2 trucks parked in front of the building, but of course this was just a disguise. The door to one of the trucks opened, and several dozen plainclothes investigators jumped out. The same thing was happening at the back door, too. The ground level guards noticed this and began to draw their guns, but were taken out immediately by nearby investigators who had been pretending to be innocent bystanders. Several dozen investigators quickly went down the underground stairs. Those narrow underground stairs were another obstacle to their operation. Everything would end up on the security camera. The raid would become known within a few seconds. For that matter, a push on the security button would make it impossible for the lock to be opened from the outside. That's why they had to secure the door before the ambush. The guards on both sides of Akasaka noticed the loud footsteps coming from the stairs. The well-dressed guard also realized that something was wrong. 3 guards shifted their attention from Akasaka to the stairs behind him. As he sensed that attention shift, Akasaka took a quick, deep breath and then stopped breathing entirely. The 2 guards standing beside him suddenly rose into the air in strange positions. Akasaka had determined his position relative to the 2 guards next to him, but he didn't need to check with his eyes. But even so... His fists had been driven into their faces with such precise accuracy. His moves were well trained and showed no mercy against evil. They were as destructive as armor-piercing ammunition. And furthermore, Akasaka had retracted his arms at the same speed he struck. Everything looked so strange in the flashing lights. The man who witnessed all this probably couldn't figure out what had just happened. Two guards were up in the air in strange positions, and the man who had been standing in front of him was now crouching low. And that frozen moment shattered. The well-dressed guard was smashed into the ceiling and shortly after came crashing down onto the floor. Later on, while slurping liquid food, he was desperately trying to remember whether it was a fist or a leg that broke his jaw. He would probably never quite recall it. Luckily, the way his body fell blocked the door, so Akasaka didn't have to hold it open any longer.
赤坂突入する。
おい待て、後続と合流しろ。赤坂。
The room was filled with loud music, but everyone had already noticed the brouhaha, whatever the fuck that means. As soon as Akasaka bellowed his warning, screams filled the club. Most people immediately hit the floor as if trying to proclaim their innocence. But all the guards quickly reacted to Akasaka. In the midst of all this, there were a few people who were trying to make their escape to the back alongside several guards. Akasaka restarted his breathing once and stopped it again, and then ran after them like a wolf. He jumped up onto the table, smashing expensive bottles of alcohol and scattering glasses with ice cubes made from the icebergs of the Arctic. The foreign bodyguard, whose previous profession must have been a professional boxer, thoughtlessly stood in front of Akasaka. With a heavy accent, he tried to taunt his opponent. But Akasaka couldn't have cared less about that. The only display that man was able to put on for him was that he was able to block Akasaka's attack. But it wasn't even an effective guard. The power of Akasaka's punches were so incredible they simply broke the man's bones in his attempt to block them. God damn! The man's arm warped in a strange way, and the moment after the agony showed on his face, Akasaka's left arm ground into it. Akasaka, you see, is right-handed. That man should consider himself grateful that he was able to get away with a mere orbital fracture. Thinking that this was his chance, another man attempted to tackle Akasaka from behind. He assumed that no matter how strong a man was, he'd go down quickly when attacked from behind. He also assumed that as Akasaka was concentrating in front of him, he wouldn't be expecting an attack from behind to begin with. But that would only be true if Akasaka was just concentrating on his front. Indeed, the attacker was very wrong, for Akasaka was no longer even thinking about the man before him. Akasaka knew exactly when and what was about to happen. The experience he had built up to this day taught him that. His body more than his mind remembered the timing for when menaces to society like this would make them move from behind him. Akasaka's attack continued fluidly from the left arm punch that he struck against the ex-boxer. His left arm retracted, and at the same time he arced his left leg around beautifully as it crashed into the man approaching him from behind. A dull sound signified that his nose had been broken, but Akasaka already knew that. Akasaka continued his motion and directed a decisive right blow to the side of his assailant's head. The man slammed into the wall, bounced off of it, rolling onto the floor. Akasaka took another breath. Under the glare of the dazzling club lights, the guards realized they were up against a demon. Yes, they realized that there was no way to take him down. The guards were being paid to deal with humans. Fighting demons just wasn't in their job description. At that moment, backup finally arrived. Maybe finally isn't a suitable word. Everything that happened did so in a matter of seconds. The time it took for Akasaka to take down those 5 guards was a span of nearly 2 breaths.
全員床に伏せて頭の上で手を組め抵抗すると命の保証はしない
Thanks to Akasaka's furious action, the flow of events was already set. Akasaka's intimidating first strike shattered the gang leader's will to run. They were all on the floor, but one of them began smiling.
私に触れる。良くないです。外交問題になりますよ。
Akasaka grabbed him by the collar and threw him against the concrete wall. Ow.
あなた、警察ですか？不逮捕特権あります。私は外交官です。
そりゃよかった。
Good for you, he said.
いくらだ？
これ外交問題になります。大使館へ連絡させてくだ。
He said, I don't give a fuck. With a dragon-like roar, Akasaka's right fist pounded the wall right next to the diplomat's head. Immediately after that, his left fist pounded the wall on the other side of that head, and soon enough Akasaka had pounded the wall 7 times, each just a sliver away from the diplomat. His fists were easily powerful enough to crush the man's head. The diplomat crumbled to the floor.
Akasaka. Target 確保.
Further investigators discovered a secret getaway route that even public safety didn't know about. Dozens of Soviet military-grade machine guns were found, and if Akasaka hadn't stopped them there in the club, they would have escaped, or even worse, the operation might have ended with a brutal death toll on both sides. All thanks to how well Akasaka executed his duty, the operation was completed without a single shot fired.
確保しろ。急げ。地元警察が来るぞ。全員を荷台に押し込め。
Since a foreign diplomat was involved, they had to make sure it didn't look as though the whole operation was carried out by the police. Instead, it was made to look like a simple gang war. They would dump the useless gang members and hand over the target to the police. Of course, before handing him over, they'd make sure he spilled everything he knew. Diplomatic pig would be used as a negotiation device by another part of public safety. There'd been plenty of evidence that said pig was tied to an underground criminal organization. Not wanting a persona non grata on their hands, the embassy would likely cut all ties with them. The rest would be the business of other departments. Public safety's job was to take care of the things regular police couldn't deal with.
赤坂は無事か。
I'm good.
応答しろ、赤坂。
He's
こちら
fine.
赤坂。撤収中。
Damn. I didn't know he was such a badass. Jesus Christ. Yeah, why won't you stay in Hinamizawa, you piece of shit?
やっぱり鬼だな。
Everything would be fine.
秒殺で5人撃墜だぜ。
Holy crap.
ありゃあ絶対空手の域を超えてるな。赤坂さんの鉄拳は
Lethal weapons!
しかし連中、銃を抜かなかったのはラッキーだったよな。赤坂さん、躊躇ねえからな。蜂の巣にしてたかもしれないぜ。
聞こえてるぞ。人を殺し屋みたいに言うな。俺は悪党に容赦しないだけだ。
The pigs he had just caught were no average criminals that committed so many unforgivable sins. The strength behind Akasaka's fist was proportional to those sins. The heavier their sins, the more powerful his blows would be.
歌どもを荷台に詰め込め。赤坂、急がせろ。所轄署に通報が入ってるぞ。
赤坂了解。聞こえたな。撤収を急げ。
了解。主任どうぞ。要治療が5名、手配をお願いします。
There wasn't any trace left of Akasaka's old naivete. He had grown to be the vigilante ace of his department. So that's the piece that she's missing. Akasaka was training inside of a dark dojo filled with the smell of sweat and mold. The dojo was located in the middle of downtown in a small building. It wasn't that big, but they weren't that well equipped either. It certainly didn't look like a dojo where a person as skilled as Akasaka would be. There were only 3 or 4 students there, including Akasaka. But this was the dojo he picked. Akasaka karate was certainly a weapon for crushing his enemies, but now he was seeking something further from it. To achieve this goal, a dojo with many young students having actual physical lessons wouldn't work. He had gone to so many different dojos, and this was the one he finally settled on. Every time Akasaka punched a sandbag, the heavy thud of his punch and the clang of the sandbag's chain would echo. He wasn't just punching blindly. He thought first, developed those thoughts, and then punch. It was more of a deep and low vibration than a proper sound. Drops of sweat scattered and the dust welled up in the air. It was a perfect blow embodying the concept of one strike, one kill. He wasn't satisfied. He closed his eyes, controlled his breathing as if trying to hear the cries of the cicadas, and he punched again. From a beginner's perspective, it looked like he was taking breaks between each. The other students training on their own would glance over in sense of fearsome respect as he focused his grip blows.
赤坂さんって警察に勤めてるって噂だぜ。
マジかよ。あんな人が警官やってるなら俺は悪いことする気なんか起きねえぜ。
I mean, I wouldn't either.
赤坂さんも集中力がすげえよな。あの人疲れるってことを知らねえぜ。
On his days off, Akasaka came to the dojo in the early morning, and he silently trained all day. His training was no longer physical, but mental. The other students were already aware that his continuous concentration was the secret of his strength. However, that was easier said than done. As long as this person lives, they are bound by countless ties and idle thoughts. For a person to submit all his will into such singular focus is more like trying to attain enlightenment than something in the realm of martial arts. Man had tried many different methods to achieve such enlightenment. What we've learned is that there is no one way to reach it. The path one takes can reach it if mastered. Karate is what Akasaka chose.
噂に聞いたんだけどよ、あの人奥さん死んじゃってるらしいんだよ。
Oh no!
それを忘れるために空手を始めたって噂だ
When did
ぜ。
that happen?
俺が聞いた話は違うぜ。任務中に女の子を救えなかったとかなんとかで、それで自分の無力さを痛感したとかなんとか。
おい、聞こえてるぞ。人の噂話なんかしてないで稽古をしろ。
おっす。
There was a small beeping noise. Somebody's watch was letting them know it was noon.
あ、赤坂さん。俺たち弁当買ってきますけど、赤坂さんのも買ってきましょうか。
助かる。何でもいいぞ。頼む。
Agasaka was more pleased to be alone in the dojo than to have anyone bring him lunch. When they left, silence filled the building.
くそ、人の話なんかしやがるから。集中が途切れちまったじゃないか。
But if that happened because of that bit of small talk, that meant he had much more training to do. He had to train much harder if he wanted to achieve enlightenment. He focused again and started to push the sandbag, but the sound was a lot lighter than before. Obviously, the strength in his fists was no longer there. Realizing that he needed to take a break, Akasaka pulled out a towel from his bag and sat down. The sound of cicadas soaked into his body. The windows were open, but there was no breeze coming in. Still, he could feel the cool air of just a little. Just as they said, the reason Akasaka started karate was because of Yukie's death. Aww. That's so sad. Losing as a subject in that kidnapping incident was one reason too, but more than that, the pain from Yukie's death was what made him start. Yukie fell down the stairs at the hospital and died when he was on a business trip in Shishibon. He couldn't get rid of that depression, so he started learning karate. That's so sad. But in June 1983, the Great Hinamizawa disaster occurred. He realized something very important. Before he realizes something, I gotta take a very quick break, and then I'll be back. Alright, what are we realizing, fam? A girl had predicted Yuki's death, and in return she wanted him to help her. Ah. Yuki's death was an accident. He could have told himself that there was nothing he could have done. As for the girl, Rika Furude's death was different. She knew about her own death 5 years prior. When the disaster occurred, he remembered Oishi and called him to make sure he was okay. Then found out about everything. When he was caught up, he fell into despair. Rika was the turning point in his life. If he had believed when she predicted and did something about it, maybe Yuki wouldn't have fallen down the stairs. He took the oath to serve the public as a police officer, yet didn't even notice the plea for help from a little girl. He shoved aside the conspiracy surrounding her until it was too late. He had 5 years to do something about it, but he didn't do anything. And she died. Visiting Hinamizawa for the kidnapping case of the minister's grandson was definitely the turning point in his life. If he had only listened to what the girl said, Yuki would never have died. He could have been there to help Rika. Those two things continued to haunt him. An investigation to the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa that he heard about from Oishi was put on an indefinite hiatus because of the disaster. It's apparent to both of them there was some conspiracy behind it all. To challenge such things, he needed all the strength and experience that he could muster. He was devoting himself to gain such strength, but it was too late. Everything had already ended. While he was stuck in this dilemma, the dojo instructor admonished him. There's nothing one can do about what's already done. So in that case, the only thing he can do is train diligently, so that if the same thing is to happen again, he will be able to save a person in need. It's all too late. Everything is already over. Yuki died in an accident. Hinamizawa was destroyed in the gas disaster. And Rika-chan was murdered as her intestines were ripped out while she was alive. Shit. I was too obsessed with Yuki's death and couldn't hear the girl's pleas for help. If I had listened to her, I could have prevented Yuki's accident, too. Damn it. Damn it. Shit. Sakusaka clutched his hair and looked up. He noticed a small shrine overhead that protected the dojo. Saga respected both Shinto and Buddhism, but he had never thought of praying to gods in times of despair. First time he felt like praying for help. It was something he was capable of doing himself. He would never even consider praying. So it was something he couldn't resolve on his own. He prayed. It was a very selfish wish. If his wish were to come true, everyone in the whole world would wish for the same thing.
もう一度あの時に戻らせてくれ。そうしたら今度こそ俺は二人を救う。
That moment, Akusaka's body suddenly felt very light. It was more like he was losing balance, as if he was fainting. Perhaps it was because he shouted so loudly after training and his brain was lacking in oxygen. But he couldn't take his eyes off of the shrine.
ありがとう、赤坂。あなたの思いが私たちにはとても必要だった。
Was this a hallucination? Akasaka felt a stranger was talking to him.
私たちが奇跡を願い、あなたも奇跡を願わなければ。だって奇跡は全員が願わなかったら起こらない。双方が手を伸ばし合わなかったら届かない。
He didn't know what she was trying to say. Somehow it felt like he couldn't miss a single word of it. He felt like it was something very, very important.
赤坂、もしあなたも望んでくれるなら、あなたに奇跡を、私たちに奇跡を。それは欠けたかけらを結び合わせ、より大きな大きなかけらを生み出すきっかけになる。あなたがたった一つの決意が全員の思いや運命に大きな影響を及ぼすこともあるのだから。
あの時にもう一度時間を。
そんなこと私にはできないのです。私にできるのは気づかせることだけ。一つのかけらだけでは学べないことを他のかけらで学んだことを気づかせてあげるだけだから、この欠けたかけらを あるべきところへ戻すだけ。それでもきっと大きな奇跡、もっともその奇跡をあなたはきっと気づかないだろうけれど。
Thank you, Akasaka. Thank you for remembering me. I don't even know how much time I've spent asking you for help. Finally, it reached you. I'll say it one more time. Please help me. No. Please help us. Another one? Huh? Haven't we already viewed that one? View it again? It was long. Really was long. Are you okay? Is your spirit still alive? Do we have all the pieces we want lined up on the game board? Is this everything we have that can go up against Takano and her minions in the Game of Fate in the June of 1983? I think, maybe, we have everything. Last but not least, Hanyu, it's you. The time you have left to be a piece is limited. But that doesn't mean you can't show up in the game. Shall we begin? We've put in hundreds of years just for this moment. Yes, we did it! Hold on, I'm not ready yet. Yes, we're saving. Okay. Someone once suggested that believing is like placing a bet with coins of hope. In other words, believing means taking a risk. You gain something if you win, but you lose something if you fail. As with any gamble, we try to make sure we win and then bet a coin. As with any gamble, there's no guarantee of victory. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And that's how you increase the number of coins you have. If you keep losing, you don't want to continue gambling. It's then that you realize, if you don't gamble, you don't have to lose anything. Not gambling on anything is the same as not believing in anything. Not believing in anything is the same as not involving yourself in anything. Not involving yourself in anything is the same as not existing. Therefore, she didn't exist. Only coin she had in her heart was the last one. If she lost it, she'd disappear. That was why she was hesitating to make a bet. She had been running, trying not to get involved in any type of match because she was afraid of betting it by accident. But just like in a game of poker, she could lose her coin by folding. She tried not to lose her last coin, but that meant she was going to lose it eventually anyway. There was something she didn't know. Actually, I didn't know it at the time either. The more coins bet into the pool, the higher our chances of winning the game. In other words, the more frightened we are, the more we keep losing the game before us. Just like carrying a portable shrine. It's impossible to carry such a heavy thing by oneself. When people put their strength together, they can lift it easily. There's a clear borderline between too heavy to lift and easily lifted. Just like how the balance on the scale tips with just a little weight. The big heavy shrine before us couldn't be lifted. Everyone tried their hardest to raise it, but couldn't. I didn't help because I was sure it couldn't budge. I don't participate in games I know I can't win. So I didn't bet my coin. But that was wrong of me. Maybe the portable shrine could have been lifted if I joined. The longest time I've been pretending to be a bystander. I always thought if I was just there to find out my coin was being worth betting or not, but that was wrong. I'm not just an onlooker, nor should I be a bystander. I should have participated. The game I've been facing doesn't look like a game I can win. Doesn't look like a game that's worth betting on. But by betting on it, not participating in it, or believing in it, the outcome might change. Gamble on something is the same as to believe in something. Believe in something is to be involved in something. To be involved in something is the same as to exist. Therefore, he existed.
Hi, 皆さん。朝のホームルームを始めますよ。おしゃべりはおしまいです。委員長、号令。起立。礼。おはようございます。
Ohayou gozaimasu. It's an ordinary morning. The only difference is that it started a little later than usual. Chie-sensei normally arrives in the classroom right away, but she's a little late today. Why was she late for homeroom? Rumors were already stirring about the classroom before she arrived. Chie-sensei gave a cue, and a girl peeked into the room timidly. Hanyu!
新しい転校生の古出羽生さんです。今日から皆さんと一緒にお勉強することになりま
Yay,
し
she's
た。
so cute! Look at your baby. Voices of welcome, delight, and surprise all mixed together and filled the classroom.
古出？あれ？リカちゃんの親戚なの？そうなのですよ。僕の遠縁の親戚な
My
ので
distant
す。
relative.
もう私もびっくりでございますのよ。
So how is she able to have a physical form this
知り
time?
ませんでしたわ。いやいや、おじさんも知らなかったよ。まあ、御三家筋は結構ややこしいからね。私の知らない縁戚がいたとしてもありえないことじゃないよ。でもやっぱりリカちゃんの親戚だよね。はう、かわいいよ。かわいい。
Oh, my classmates had gotten excited. The new girl looked rather intimidated by it all. Rika-chan is rather carefree, but this Hanyu seems like the complete opposite. She's more like a shy woodland animal. Exact type that Rena loves. Look, see? Rena's ready to swallow her whole. Please don't do that.
では羽生さん、自己紹介をしてください。皆さんは静かに聞くように。はい、それでは羽生さん、どうぞ。
Chie-sensei left the podium and encouraged Hanyu to take over. Oh, she's so cute! Left her standing there timidly for a little bit. Well, that's understandable. Look at that sprite art! It's very nerve-acting to watch, though.
リカの親戚なのです。
Me!
僕の親戚なのですよ。みんな仲良くしてあげてほしいです。
They're so cute! Ricochet could tell that she's too nervous to introduce herself. She's right to break the silence. Crushing her like that isn't fair. Which is why I decided to make it more lively.
リカちゃんと同じフルデさんなんだね。フルデさんが2人になっちゃった。なら、羽生さんでいいじゃありませんの。フルデさんって呼んだら、リカも振り返ってしまいましたよ。
We generally call each other by our first names here. There's one of us starting today, so we should call her by her first name too.
なら決まりだね。今日からあんたのことは羽生って呼ぶよ。私はクラス委員長の園崎ミヨン。ミヨンでいいからね。北条さとこでございますわよ。よろしくですわよ、羽生さん。
Daiki Tomita. Parents run a tofu shop. Please come by anytime. I'm Suguru Okamura. Please ask me if you don't know anything.
こんにちは。仲良くしようね。
Aww.
何年生？
It's a good question. Our classmates fell over each other to introduce themselves. Everyone tried to get her to remember their names so they could be friends. A friendly atmosphere swelled in the room. I've only just transferred recently myself. This is exactly how it was on my first day too. I remember how nervous I was and how much I appreciated this as a result. I know more than anyone how nerve-wracking it is to be a new student. I should look after her.
そうだね。早くクラスに馴染めるようにしてあげないとね。
そっか。レナも去年は転校生だったんだよな、確か。レナも転校してきた時は緊張したか？
うん。
もみーちゃんたちがすごく親切にしてくれたからすぐに馴染めたんだよ。
まあね、ニューカマーを迎えるのも御三家の大切な仕事だからね。
都合のいい時だけ御三家になるなお前は。でもミオンなんかに世話になって馴染めたってのは確かにそうだ。
なら今度はケイちゃんがお世話をする番ってことになるんじゃないかな。
そうだな。レナだって転校生だったのにその次に来た俺に世話をしてくれたもんな。なら今度は俺が新しい転校生に親切にする番ってことだな。
A new student always dramatically changes the atmosphere of class. Even my attitude has changed. We decided to gather around Hanyu during lunch break.
それでは羽生への質問は1人1個ずつだからね。彼女の本質に迫るディープな質問をズバリ言ってみよう。
Oh no.
さあさあ、1番は誰？
好きな食べ物は何ですか？甘いお菓子はみんな大好きなのです。一番好きなのはシュークリームなのですよ。あら、それは素敵ですわね。私も大好物でしたよ。沖宮に美味しい洋菓子のお店がありますの。今度案内して差し上げましたよ。
はいはい、男ども聞こえたね。羽生の好感度を稼ぐにはシュークリームだよ。安いやつより高級店の高くて美味しいやつが効果的。さあ次の質問は誰かな。ないならおじさんが今日の下着の色とか聞いちゃうよ。
Ow! Everyone kept asking Hanyu questions. She looked all panicky again. Mion and Stoka seem amused, so it might be the same for them too. I noticed Rena was watching the scene before her with a distant look in her eyes. She's probably remembering her first day too.
レナも転校してきた時を思い出してるのか？他のことを考えてたな。羽生をお持ち帰りする算段でもしてるんだろう。
そんなこと考えてないよ。羽生ちゃんがシュークリームが大好きなこととか、レナのうちに美味しいシュークリームがあるんだよ、食べにおいでとか全然考えてないんだよ。お持ち帰り。
明日からいきなり不登校になったらこりゃレナのせいに違いないな。
そんなのひどいよ。
As we watched Hanyu and other classmates have fun, Ren and I laughed together.
ねえケイチくん、なんだか嬉しいね。
嬉しいよな。新しいクラスメートを迎えるのは。
そうじゃなくて、この子たまに見かけてた気がするの。
羽生か？引っ越し前の下見とかで来た時とかかな。レナって記憶力いいな。
そういうのじゃなくて、羽生ちゃんはもっと前からいて、レナたちのすぐ近くでみんなで遊んでるのをずっと見てた気がするの。ずーっと。あれ？レナだけ？ケイチ君も気づいてたよね？
いや、俺は全然見たことはないんだが、レナは面識があるってことなのか？
What I can see, this is the first time Mion and Satoko have met Hanyu. If she's been that close to us, like Rena said, it's impossible that none of us would remember her.
気のせいじゃねえのか？第一、羽生は転校生なんだぜ。村にそんなにしょっちゅういたはずないじゃないか。
そうかな。たまに見かけたような気がするんだけどな。
気のせい気のせい。羽生だってついさっき 転校前は遠くに住んでたって言ってたじゃないか。
でもレナは見たんだけどな。
Oh. And it looked like she was trying to remember more. It's probably one of those deja vu experiences. Although it is the first time you see something, it feels like you've seen it before.
別にどうでもいいだろう。今はここにいるんだからさ。
そうなんだよね。あんなにもレナたちの輪の中に入りたそうにしていたから、仲間に加われてよかったねって。
Mira smiled with tears in her eyes. I looked over at her. Rika-chan was wearing the same expression. It made no sense to me why those two looked that way. But as soon as Satoko came over and pulled a prank on me, I forgot all about it. Jesus Christ. Those are the words that signaled the best time of the school day. As soon as the last period ended, my classmates ran out of the room. Hani was popular all day today. She's Rika's age, so all the lower grade students gathered around her. Older students like me and Mion didn't have a chance to get close to her.
まあクラスとしてはさ、こわもての上級生が転校してくるよりは自分たちと同い年くらいの可愛い転校生の方が嬉しいだろうしね。
ケイチくん、最初の頃はしてたのか、なんだか怖そうな顔をしてたもんね。
おいおい、そりゃひどいぜ。俺だってクラスに早く馴染もうとフレンドリーに接してたってのによ。
どこがフレンドリーでございましたの？私、転校してきて早々にいきなりケイチさんにデコピンを食らってますのよ。
それは転校初日の教室デビューの出花をトラップでくじかれたからだろうが。しかも椅子の背には画鋲で、机の中にはカエルまで入ってたぞ。
転校生が職員室にいると聞いて様子を見に行った時、ケイチがとても緊張してるように見えたのです。だからサトコが緊張をほぐしてやろうと思ったに違いないのです。ひなみ沢の先輩として気を利かせて差し上げたんでしたよ。
絶対それだけはありえねえな。
Well, that blackboard eraser trap sure did help ease my tension. Sadoko will be so pleased with herself if I tell her that. So I'll never admit it.
羽生ちゃんはみんなと帰ったね。放課後は誰と遊ぶか今頃引っ張りだこなんじゃないかな。
でもやっぱり初日は疲れるもんだよな。きっと帰ったらバタンキューだぜ。
違いありませんわね。
さてさて皆の衆、このところ私のバイトのせいでだいぶ長いことご無沙汰だったね。部活メンバーの招集だ。
待ちかねてましてよ。ご無沙汰が過ぎると鈍ってしまいましてよ。誰かの罰ゲームをかわいそしないと僕も退屈してしまいますです。レナは負けないんだよ。久しぶりだから手加減なんかしないんだよ。
どうやらみんな欲求不満でだいぶエネルギーを持て余してたようだね。そうでなくちゃおじさんも叩き潰す甲斐がないってもんだよ。
やる気満々みたいじゃねえか。だがな、あいにく俺の今日の調子は絶好調だ。しくじったなミオン。今日もバイトに行ってた方が良かったと後悔することになるぜ。
Mion had to work quite a bit lately because her uncle's shop is short on staff. So we haven't done any club activities for a long while. Whereas club activities are the main reason we come to school. Anyway, we leave for these few hours after school. If there are no club activities, there's no point in coming here at all. I mean, I wouldn't say that. It only makes sense for us to be excited about getting to have a meeting again.
こりゃ生半可なゲームじゃみんなの渇きを癒せそうにないね。 何のゲームで料理してやろうかね。
Mion looked into the club locker. I'm always curious about what's in that locker and how much of it there is. I swear there's more in there than it can realistically hold. Just then we heard the door open.
あれ？羽生ちゃん？こんにちは。あら、どうなさいましたの？忘れ物でございますの？
I thought she had already gone home. She forget her lunchbox or something? It's not that big a deal to forget a textbook, but you can't forget a lunchbox.
羽生、どうしたの？なんか探し物？
Honey looked at us apologetically. What is it? Are we in the way? She kept staring at us timidly. Hmm? Are we sitting in Hanyu's seat? No, that's not it.
どうしたの、羽生ちゃん？何か困りごとかな？
Minna talked to her, but there was no communication to be had. Almost like trying to have a conversation with a stray cat. Oh, what is this? Hanyu was fixated on something. I followed her gaze and found Rika. Hanyu's apologetic gaze was directed at Rika-chan. Me.
僕は何も言いませんです。羽生がそうしたいなら自分のお口で言うと良いのです。
With that, I finally figured it out. Hanyu wanted to say something, but she didn't know how to say it, so she wanted Rika to say it for her. But Rika told her to say it herself. In other words, we need to listen to what Hanyu has to say. We patiently waited for Hanyu to speak up. But when I think about what happened this morning, I realize this kind of silence makes her even more nervous. Rena noticed that, talked to her in a sweet tone of voice.
どうしたの、羽生ちゃん？レナにこっそり話して。相談に乗ってあげるよ。お？何？もう一回言って。ほうほう。
Rena raised her voice.
何よ、おじさんにも教えてよ。何なのよ一体。
本当にいいの？どうしたんでございますの？もごもご言われては気持ちよくありませんでしたよ。僕も部活に混ぜてもらいたいのです。
Hanyu said it loudly as if to shake off her embarrassment.
こりゃまだ驚いた。どこで誰におじさんたちのことを聞いたのやら。
僕も入れてほしいのです。僕も部活に混ぜてほしいなのです。よく自分で言えましたです。パチパチパチ。
Oh! Rika must have known that Hanyu wanted to join the club all along. Who folded her arms with a smile and stared at Hanyu as if appraising her. Needless to say, Hanyu was intimidated.
自分から好んで七に飛び込みたがるとは。こりゃ
Not mortal peril.
うちの部活はそんじょそこらのおままごととは違うんだ。選ばれた者が試練をくぐり抜けた末にようやく入部を許される栄光の部活なんだよ。入れてください。はいそうですかってわけにはいかないね。
羽生ちゃん、みーちゃんの部活は見てる分にはとっても楽しいかもしれないけど、大変なんだよ。覚悟の上なのです。勝って当然。負けたらとんでもないことになってしまいますのよ。その覚悟は終わりですこと。 僕も負けないのですよ。それに
Hanyu swallowed once and said what was on her mind. It sounded like a big thing to say for her, as though it had much deeper meaning.
かつての僕は負けるのが嫌で全ての勝負から逃げていましたのです。でも逃げることは負けることにすら劣ること、負ける痛みにくじけず戦い続けて初めて勝ちを得られるのだと教えてもらいましたのですから。羽生
Mion realized that although she looked timid, Hanyu was actually very courageous. She grinned. Looks like she's grown fond of her.
へえ、なかなかどうして大した根性じゃねえかよ。どうだよミオン、せっかくだから試してやったらいいじゃねえかよ、入部試験。
我が部にふさわしいかどうか、最低数週間の観察を経てようやく受けられる入部試験を転校初日からとはね。さてどうしたものか。
Mion pretended to be stubborn, but in reality she was simply playing with her. She actually didn't want her to join, she would have refused her right away. Of course, if Anya was bothered by this kind of intimidation, she wouldn't be able to survive in this club.
レナとサトコが今話したと思うけど、うちの部は厳しいよ。勝って当然。狙うは1位のみ。間違って最下位になった日にゃ、生まれてきたことを後悔するような大変な目に遭わされるんだよ。
でも僕も頑張るのです。でも罰ゲームだってとっても楽しいんだよ。
Hanyu, you've been watching the whole time, huh? You've been wanting to join for the longest time, huh? I got the feeling that Rena had just mumbled something like that.
ミオン、もったいぶらないで試してやればいいじゃねえかよ。俺だってそいつをくぐって入部を許可されたはずだぜ。
そうですわよ。一つ羽生さんの腕っぷしを見てやろうじゃありませんの。羽生ちゃん頑張ろう。レナは手加減しないからね。僕だって手加減しないのです。僕は羽生にだけ手加減しないのです。
よーし、気に入った。フルで羽生、あんたに我が部の入部試験を許可するとなりゃ話は変わるね。羽生にも分かるゲームにしてあげないとね。どれがいいかな。おこいつがいいかな。
Mion threw a deck of cards onto the decks. Does this mean...
誰でもわかるゲームでいこう。トランプのじじ抜きはどうかな。
望むところなのです。
Here she goes, exactly what I had to endure when I went through this entrance exam. This is the marked tile deck.
なかなか威勢のいい返事でございますわね。でも我が部のじじ抜きは一味違いましてよ。
Most of the cards have scratches on the back, so by memorizing the scratches you can tell what card it is. In other words, the more you played this game, the better you are at it. This is simply our way of being mean to newcomers.
羽生ちゃん頑張ってね。これは試練なんだよ。ファイト王なのです。
Fighto! This sure brings back memories. I had to go through this too. It just happened recently, but I still feel so nostalgic.
だがそれと手加減は別の事件だぜ。あの時みんなが手加減なしで全力で俺を叩き潰してくれたように、俺も全力で叩き潰してやるからな。なあみんな、
お覚悟なさいませですわよ、羽生さん。
さあさあ、部活メンバーの末席を望むならそれにふさわしいかを自ら示してみな。
はいなのです。
札を右から言うよ。エース3、4、7、ジャック、クイーン。
今更手で隠したって見え見えですわよ。ごめんね羽生ちゃん、これがスペードのエースだよね。バッチリ。
思い知ったかハリューン。入部試験の洗礼を思い知れ。
Me.
圭一は自分の入部試験の恨みが混じりまくりなのです。
ほらほらケイちゃん、そんなこと言ってていいの？羽生、ケイちゃんの右のカードで上がれるよ。
上がりましたのです。
とわーがきったねー。こうなりゃ本気モードでいくぜ。よくもこの俺を怒らせたな。羽生、お前初日の下校からいきなり尻尾付き車の首輪付き四つん這いで帰宅したいのか？
あらあら、それはむしろ圭一さんにこそ似合いましたよ。いいねいいね。それをレナがお持ち帰り。僕も圭一に恥ずかしい罰ゲームをしてやりますのです。
いい提案だね。おじさんはそいつになるよ。
なんでいつの間にか俺包囲網が完成してるんだよ。上等だ。てめえら全員四つん這いで下校させてやるぜ。
Not the beep noise. What the fuck?
はい、バンケットより後方。スピーチあと一人で乾杯に入ります。準備できてるね。
後方 OK です。内部全然聞こえないんで、スピーチが終わるタイミングでコールをお願いします。
いいかい。各宅にビールは10本ずつだよ。ちゃんと自分の縄張りにスムーズに運んでね。
Young waiters with bow ties got bottles of beer ready for a toast. There are 7 dozen tables with white tablecloths on them in the banquet room. Approximately 8 people are seated at each table, so at least a few hundred people there. The banquet room is teeming with excitement. There are many plates with different kinds of food on each table. A sushi platter, a sashimi platter, a fruit platter. Along the wall there are cooks ready to serve fresh sashimi. All the guests appear to be well-mannered gentlemen, and obviously they are notable people from different fields. The huge and beautiful chandelier above them clearly tells that this hotel holds a good status enough for those famous people. Elderly gentleman is giving a long speech on the stage before making a toast. Usually people don't like such long speeches, especially if it's before a toast. But the guests are actually excited with his speech. Maybe fervor was a pleasant way to put it. It's probably more accurate to say their excitement was bizarre. Japan accepted the demand for unconditional surrender, and the day they did, the Pacific War ended. In other words, even if they had to take care of further business, the war ended that day according to international law, and from that day on there was peace. Therefore, if any troops invaded Japanese land during that peace, that would be an encroachment against Japan. No matter what the Soviet Union says, the Northern Territories are Japanese land, and it should be clear to everyone that they invaded illegally. And now they want to settle by returning a mere 2 islands to us? Who do they think they're kidding? Listen, Hobamai, Shikotan, Kanashir, and Itarup are Japanese territory. Their total area is equal to an entire prefecture. What would you think if the Soviets invaded and occupied one of our prefectures? Would you settle for just getting half of the prefecture back? No, you wouldn't. You'd have the entirety returned to you. Yet the Soviets are brazenly sitting there claiming vested rights to the land. This is no joke. We must strongly oppose this to the bitter end. Turn all the northern islands. Our nation must demonstrate unwavering resolve on that point. Thunderous applause filled the banquet room. All the gentlemen agreed and expressed that they felt the same way by cheering him on. In all that hubbub, there are two people standing by the wall who didn't seem to fit in with the rest. They were wearing sharp-looking suits, and while a little too old to be called young men, they were certainly young compared to all the elderly gentlemen in the banquet room.
どうして政治家ってこう説教臭いというか若者軽視というかこう偏るんでしょうね。
簡単なことさ。
Akasaka's here!
政治家が一番欲しいのは票だ。票は有権者が投じる。だが20歳以上が全員投票するわけじゃない。投票率のほとんどは退職して時間にゆとりがあり、その分政治に関心の高い高齢者が占める。
となれば高齢者層をいかに取り込むかというのが選挙のポイントになるわけですね。
The war only happened 40 years ago. In other words, the generation that's interested in voting is the generation from before the war.
うちの袋よく空襲の話をします。昔は水道橋のあたりに住んでて空襲で家族を全員失って焼け野原を一人さまよったなんて話をいつも。
そうさ。
なるほど。政治家も票を取るのに大変なんですね。
そういう主義主張も本心でしているなら一意見の主張として立派だと思う。だが彼らの票が欲しくて表向きだけ調子を合わせてる卑劣な政治家もいる。そういう迎合的な政治家が後を絶たない限り解雇主義は永遠に終わらないのさ。
そうして若者とお年寄りの意識の格差は多分1000年経っても相変わらず。
簡単さ。若者がちゃんと選挙に行け。そして安易な迎合にごまかされずちゃんと政策を考えてるやつに投票しろ。実現可能な政策だぞ。
ああ、いますね。明らかに実現不可能な公約を掲げてる候補者っていますあ、赤塚さん F 択ってあれじゃないですか。
あのご婦人だな。行くぞ。
Speech had ended and the elderly gentlemen were giving the man on the stage a standing ovation. The two men walked through the crowd and approached an old lady in a kimono.
はい、私ですけれども、どちら様ですか？
昨日お電話で約束させていただきましたものです。赤坂と申します。
主人はね、ずっと日本のためにと身を粉にして働いてきたんですのよ。それなのに
奥さんの胸中深くお察しします。
This wasn't really anything out of the ordinary. Nobody could remember if there had been a donation or not. So a handful of politicians were questioned. As a result, some came up with a scheme to blame a sickly elderly man who had already retired. With only a short time to live anyway, he was the perfect fit for them. The elderly man had already been sick in bed, and the shock of his friends betraying him had taken away his will to live. The only thing his wife could do was to simply watch him suffer. She kept crying while telling the men about her husband's achievements.
ご主人の無実が間違いなければ必ずや裁判官は正義の判決を下すでしょう。大丈夫です。濡れ衣は必ず晴らせます。
そんなのは分かっています。だって無実なんですから。でもね、判決が出るまで主人は持たないんです。お国のためにとあれだけ働いてきて、こんな気持ちで死ねなんてあんまりじゃないですか。あれじゃあ死んでも死にきれません。
Sucker nodded and tried to find the right words to say to her. His colleague rummaged through a pile of paperwork behind him. The papers were filled with fine print, and it would be hard for an onlooker to tell exactly what they were. However, the way he was looking at them made it very clear they contained something important.
赤坂さん、こいつはすごい資料です。金の動きが完全に網羅されてます。
Akasaka gave him a symbol to remind him this wasn't the place to be looking through those documents.
奥さん、この他には書類束のようなものはありませんね。
ええ、主人の金庫に入っていた文書はそれで全てです。どうかそれで恩知らずな連中に一泡吹かせてやってください。あれだけ主人に世話になっておきながら。
奥さん、この文章の内容には一部ご主人にとって不利益な内容も含まれていますが、それはご存知ですね。
ええ、それは分かっています。政治はね、綺麗事だけじゃないんです。私だって政治家の妻ですのよ。
ご協力を感謝します。この書類は必ず巨大な不正を暴くために使用します。
一つだけよろしいですか。それを公表するのは主人が亡くなるまで待ってもらえませんか。
The word Akasaka received was something her husband intended to take to the grave with him. Something that shouldn't exist in this world. If it went public, her husband's name would be disgraced. Akasaka
わかりま
nodded.
した。誓ってお約束します。
Vast public funds were moving from Kasumigaseki. The funds were issued to sub-branches to carry out national policies, but various ideas over those public funds always came together, and there was never an end to those trying to poke a straw into it to suck it out like a mosquito. Excessive dividends, cordial patronage, profits for organizations with benefits. Many financiers approached and adhered to officials and politicians hoping to earn those gains, and the bureaucrats constantly indulged them. That's how Japanese corruption works. There's illegal pipes from bypass after bypass in Kasumigaseki siphoning off public funds for their profit. To find and destroy such pipes is of course in the national interest, but eliminating illegal expenditures isn't as simple as all that. There are important people connected to those pipes, and when those people are investigated, a major political scandal takes place. The reason why the government doesn't investigate illegal expenditures is not only to protect vested interests, but also because they are conscious of the damage these scandals can cause politically. But more succinctly, government can't endure the pain of pushing pus out of a wound. The closer the exposed subject is to the top, the greater the pain faced by the government, and that affects the cabinet approval rating. The closer the subject is to the core, the more extensive the damage. The secret investigation Akasaka was leading went as close as the hardest it got, and could cause a collapse of the administration from shock. Akasaka was tipped off that a huge amount of public funding was leaking out through an alumni organization of the 7 imperial universities. He and his colleagues had been conducting a secret investigation into the matter over a long time. His target was tightly knit, but he learned the wife of one of the organization's senior members bore strong resentment towards them after her husband was made their scapegoat, and he managed to contact her. Because of that, he had gotten his hands on extremely important information. So this is how he's gonna start getting involved in Takano's
だいぶ外堀が埋まってきたようだね。
situation.
特に赤坂くんが入手した資料は相当ショッキングなものだよ。随分苦労したでしょう。お疲れさん。
いえ。
Small reading room was filled with the boxes that were in turn filled with documents. A whiteboard was filled with what? Cramped writing. Okay, an interesting phrase I've never heard of. A few investigators in the meeting room, which was also filled with smoke, were reading the documents intensely. Their intimidating manner clearly indicated that they were police officers with a great deal of experience. Akasaka was one of those men. It had been a while since Memorial Akasaka was transferred to this department. While he worked on the case of the kidnapping of Minister Inugai's grandson, he had been a rookie, but by now he was an experienced investigator. After a knock on the door, an elderly man entered the room. Everyone straightened up all at once.
室長、お疲れ様です。
お疲れさん。立たなくていい。楽にしてくれ。諸君に今日は素晴らしいプレゼントを持ってきたぞ。カノ。お前を息子の授業参観に行かせてやる。
The meeting room was filled with sighs tinged with exasperation and resignation. It certainly wasn't because any of them hated getting to go to Parents' Day.
やっぱりな。そろそろ頃合いだと思ってたんですよ。くそ。
Akasaka's colleague complained. They had been so close to getting to the root of this issue. They had such strong evidence. Akasaka, on his part, wasn't too disturbed. This had happened several times in the past, and considering how hot the documents he obtained were, it was easy enough to predict. The case was suddenly transferred to another department. That meant their investigation ended here. The new department was supposed to continue the investigation to expose injustice, but that's never happened once before. It was just an excuse. The investigation had been terminated because of pressure from above.
くそったね。俺たちが今日まで捜査してきたのは何のためだったんでしょうかね。
海を出す痛みがどの程度か測るためだろうな。その結果、痛みに耐えられない規模だということが分かり、荒領事を断念したってことだろう。
In that sense, their hard work wasn't wasted. Because of it, the investigation was terminated. Akasaka understood that, but his colleague wasn't yet mature enough to understand. Of course, Akasaka's sense of justice was displeased by this. He felt frustrated with his superiors who had hesitated to expose the truth, but he was mature enough to know not to say that out loud.
資料の整理と引き継ぎについては今後向こうと調整していく。とりあえずみんな長く休んでないだろう。5時を待たなくていいぞ。引き上げて体を休めてくれ。残務整理は明日話し合い。あと振り替え休暇の消化をしよう。ちゃんと消化して神さん孝行しろよ。
Well, that's why he
下は
chose
俺
to
と
take
来て
a
くれ。
vacation.
以上だ。
I see. There's a long secret investigation with a bad taste in his mouth. With its resolution, he managed to earn a holiday until the next incident arrived.
じゃあ、室長のお言葉に甘えますかね。みんな、今日は早く帰って休みな。
こういう時、早帰りすると不倫の現場に出くわしたりしちゃうんですよね。バカだな。お前知らないだろ。赤坂さんとこは熱愛夫婦だぞ。毎晩別当の公衆電話からラブコールかけてるの知らないのかよ。
赤坂んところはいいよな。うちの女房なんてそりゃそっけないもんだよ。
Akasaka smiled bitterly as he gathered the documents in his hands. One of the pages fell to the floor. It was a page from a huge pile of papers documenting illegal expenditures. It exposed the illegal expenditures of the Alphabet Project, the research team for the next generation of hardware in the Defense Agency. It was entirely possible this project was created in the first place for the purpose of funneling those illegal expenditures. When he saw the paper, one thing caught Akasaka's eye. He picked it up, looked at it, tried to remember. It's a list of people who illegally received public funds. Also a list of retirees who were still very much in love with money. There should have been no connection between those people and Akasaka. However, there was one thing that caught his attention.
入江診療所。
As soon as he said it, all sorts of memories resurfaced. Yes, the Irie Clinic. When he was working on the case of Minister Inukai's grandson's abduction, he got into a scuffle with the suspects and became injured. He was taken to the local clinic. As he recalled, the name of that clinic was the Irie Clinic. He started to remember one thing after another. His very first experience with wading into the muck. It was burned into his mind like a fresh memory, and he could vividly recall everything that happened. His daughter was about to be born, and he really didn't want to go to Hinamizawa. He met Oishi, who taught him a lot of important things. He also met a girl in that village. Her name was, yes, Rika Furude. That was it. How long had it been? How old was she now? He remembered her lovely smile. He also remembered the ominous prediction she made. She had predicted that if he didn't go back to Tokyo, something terrible would happen. That time he took it as nonsense, but he felt something odd about it, as if it was a divine omen. And he had remembered Yukie was about to give birth. He became concerned that something terrible would happen to her. But he couldn't just leave and go back to Tokyo. That's why he called her right away. He told her something would happen. He told her to be very careful until he returned. Yukio had laughed and told him he was being paranoid, but that phone call indeed saved her from a calamity. Hagasaka had found out about that when he visited her after returning to Tokyo. A few days after his phone call, the janitor was seriously injured when he stepped on a loose tile on the stairs on his way to the rooftop. He also heard afterwards that Yuki had a habit of going up to the roof for a walk every day. Because of his phone call, she had stopped doing it. If he hadn't called her, she would have been the one to step on the loose tile. In other words, Rika Furude's prediction had been correct. There was no proof. Rakasaka still believed that he was able to save Yukie only because of Rika Furude's prediction. He'd intended to call and thank her for saving Yukie, but that busy day that followed put it out of his mind. Rika. He wondered if she was still doing well, if she was still smiling. Akasaka remembered the sad prediction she made on that night under the moon, while wearing that smile. That's right, she'd said something. She predicted someone would get killed on the night of the festival every year, and on the 5th year in, she'd be the one to be killed. That's right, he thought, she did say that. The 5th year, that's this year. The festival is... that's right, it's in June. If you remember correctly, it happens on the last Sunday of the month. Akasaka looked at the calendar. It was June 1983. While there was still some time, the death she predicted for herself was coming up. The girl who'd predicted Yuki's accident also prophesied some mysterious incident would occur annually for the next 5 years. If it had actually been happening, that would happen again this year. Akasaka wondered if Oishi was still at the Okinomiya Police Department. The annual incident she predicted actually was taking place, he would know. In other words, he could confirm if Rika was going to be killed or not with a phone call to Oishi. The girl who predicted her own death had muttered that she didn't want to die. Muttered? No. It was clearly a plea for help. The young girl who was trapped in the fathomless, bizarre traditions of a village she couldn't escape had sought help from him, an outsider. She paid his reward in advance in the form of her seeing Yukie's accident. He had to get to her. He had to go save her. A flood of emotions filled him up. He felt as though he had finally remembered something he was never supposed to forget. That's right. He had to go to Hinamizawa. He had to save the girl who asked him for help.
はい、沖宮署でございます。
すみません。そちらの刑事課に現在も大石クラウド氏は在籍されておりますでしょうか。もしもいらっしゃったならお願いしたいのですが。
失礼ですが、どちら様でしょうか。
警視庁の赤坂とお伝えください。
I wish he was a very lively person, but he had been all old even back then. Maybe he had already transferred somewhere else, or maybe he'd since retired. If he was still there, he'd be happy to hear from Akasaka. He sure had a unique laugh.
おいさん、外線からお電話です。東京の警視庁からですよ。
東京？そりゃまた遠くからはるばるどちら様ですかね。はい、もしもし、大石です。え？こりゃ懐かしい。どうです？お元気にしてましたか？な。
sir. Do not chew on my headphones, Mr. Mans. Absolutely not. Okay, that was a lot of shit. That was chapter 5? Okay. So, depending on how long or how many chapters there is, we might be, like, halfway done? I don't know. I've spent a long time on this already. I feel like it's been at least, like, 15 hours, it says. How much did I spend on the last one? Almost 30? Okay. Well, I guess they progressively get longer, huh? Because the first one was only, like, 12. Second one was almost 14. 13. 12. 23, almost 24, 25, almost 30, and then we're going on like 15 right now, so I would say probably about 30 hours, so we're probably about halfway done-ish. I have actually no idea. But I'm actually getting really tired. I've been streaming a lot, so I'm going to end stream here and take a nappy. I may or may not be back after a little while to stream some more of this, but I am interested to see where this goes. I'm glad we at least got through all the fragment parts and that we were able to kind of see Hanyu having some more hope and, you know, with the crew, and then Akasaka actually having a turnaround, which is really cool. So yeah, thank you guys so much for sticking around, and I will see you guys soon. Bye-bye!